Ahem. Check.
I'm telling you straight. It's my way or the highway. So anybody wants to walk, do it now.
Groovy.
Beef jerky?
Hell no, son. Thank you very much. No, it gives me the wind. Something terrible.
Oh.
You using the whole fist, Doc?
Laying the dude disguises another dude.
That is a bunch of design problem.
Knife. Not thrilling, but knife. I'm dead sexy.
I feel like a Kentucky Fried Idiot.
Well, let's see, shall we? Let's try and do a morning show after all this craziness. So I come down. You know, normally I get my setup rolling, and I understand. I can hear Rob Glenn, our dear friend on Friday Eyes, voice in my head going, "Hal, you're getting digitally out over your skis. You're demanding too much. Modern computers." Nay, I believe that I'm demanding just enough, if not slightly more, than is normally expected, but less than is absolutely flooring it. I'm just saying. At least I like to think so. Apparently not. Apparently, there's quite a few times where I'm taxing my computers to the absolute end, and that's at some point I'm gonna have to. I think I'm even max headrooming a little bit right now, just because I came down and I start my computer up as I do when I'm doing the morning show. About 20 minutes ahead of the broadcast. I recognize that's still cutting it close, but over the years I've figured out a way to, even when I have an issue, get rolling right at time. It's the radio training in me, but it just went straight to the recovery window. Gray screens. Low-res box that just says Mac OS recovery, and I was like, oh dear, this is a lengthy process that I'm going to have to be dealing with, And indeed it was. So sorry to be late getting to you guys. Good morning, hello, good day, good afternoon. So much news to cover, by golly and by gosh. And let's see, where's my, is 3-6, there you go. Well, happy Jesus Day for all who celebrate. It's 3/16. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, for whosoever believe in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Let's start the monster truck rally, which I think is how I think the next verse is actually play ball. Fairly certain. Hi there, hello, happy Monday. It's Motang Monday indeed, because I think you're all aware that where is it? Oh, I think it's on the first page.
Michigan gave us Motang.
So welcome to Motang Mondays. Let's catch up on the news, shall we? It's terrible. It's a terrible day. It's terrible. It's just like, and the only upside is that it's in some cases terrible for all the right people. If that makes sense. There is a full-blown maggot war, and you hate to see it, except when you don't. And by the way, our dear friend Tara Devlin will be joining us in the second hour this morning. I got to shut some windows because I am using way too much energy, for too much memory for my computer, and it's getting pissed at me. They revised down the the projected growth to 0.7% when Trump had told everybody it was 5%, which is this made-up Chinese number and stuff. So it's obviously making the Marias and the Bartiromos of the world very upset. But the biggest one, I think, this morning, let's see if I can find this actual clip for you, was Trump saying effectively, like, you could make the case that we shouldn't be in Iran at all. That would be, let's see if I can find this for you.
It's a place from which they get their energy.
Okay, he's talking about China there. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can blow this up for you. And unfortunately, I can. Sorry about this.
And they should come and they should help us protect them. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. Maybe the #1 producer anywhere in the world times two. By double, at least double. Now I think it's much.
We're also not double the most oil produced in the world. And I think we're like a 500,000 or 750,000 barrels over Saudi Arabia, which is at 11. We're at like 13 something, depending on the timing. We're actually, they can't get stuff out of market, so that's why theirs is lowered. But we're definitely not double. It's just silly.
But we do it. It's almost like we do it for habit. But
It's almost like we do it for habit, as opposed to out of habit, which is the way we say it using the Queen's, darling. We're doing it for some very good allies. Right. Now, everybody jumped on that this is, Israel, right? We're doing it for some very good, right? Allies. Well, who's he really talking about there? Who sells oil to China from there, besides Iran? The Saudis, the Qataris. We're talking about India and China by and large, and then other Asian countries getting their oil from that area of the world. And if they can't get it from there, they buy it from someplace else. That drives the price up. Hence, oil is at $103 a barrel right now, after dropping to 80 and then going to 120, dropping to 80, going back to 103. Again, because they thought Trump was going to end this right away. The reason it dropped to 80 was they thought this was going to be over soon. Now they're unsure. This is the middle zone between 80 and 120, almost exactly, where people are like, I don't know what the fuck this dude is doing. And so that's the current trader bets on oil. So you get the point. Part of this is because of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, I have been working for a little bit on my little Iran tracker thing that I built. This thing right here. It's on my website at halsparks.com/Iran-conflict-tracker. I put the link in my chat, and it should, most importantly, show you up here in the corner what time it is where you are, like right where I am. It's 9:21, and then it tells you what time it is in Iran. And so you get a better picture of why they can hide some of the awful that's going on, depending on whether they're doing night or day stuff, by the fact that they do it while we're sleeping. And then you wake up and stuff's happened, and it becomes such a... We dealt with this with with Iraq and Afghanistan, by and large, because there was such a flood of like, what the hell happened last night in our news feed, that eventually people became numb to it. This is exactly how you get caught in a 20-year quagmire. I'm getting a lot of Chinese news updates over here, which is hilarious. But there's a constant running live intel feed for you there if you want to catch the latest news from all over the world instead of just singular sources. And I was trying to build a little like Strait of Hormuz thing right here, where I could track the ships through here. It got very difficult. I was having to do API keys and all kinds of stuff like that. It was hanging up every time I tried to reload it. And so I just got annoyed and stopped. I'll put a link where you guys can look at that stuff if you want. But it is there. There have been 5,309 kinetic actions from the from the United States side, 4,000 from the Iranian side. You can see this over here. It keeps track of this. So it's it's on my website at halsparks.com. By the way, what I would say is the new. I'll back this up right here. The new and maybe improved, I don't know, houseparks.com, which I've just been messing around with. It's a little redundant at the moment, but I think that's what it takes. And then included on there, see, I've got two trackers. One's wrong and one's right, so we'll work that out later. And then there's there's going to be a way to watch the show live from there with the chat room kind of built into the side. So I'm working on it. I'm doing stuff. It's posting my stuff. It's just I'm chipping away. I'm trying to be productive. So anyways, houseparks.com, there it is. And then this is the Iran conflict tracker you can find right there. It's right in the menu at the top. If you eat the ridiculousness, at this particular time. So there you go. Ta-da. No wonder I crapped out my computer. Now, let me hide this. As it comes as no surprise to anyone that Iran has slowed down traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, and what I think the Trump administration has not realized is it doesn't take much. I think Trump thought that all those giant ships that go through there or whatever, that it would take a lot to stop them. Like, here comes this giant boat. The mines that can take down the ship must be enormous, and they must look like something out of Hot Fuzz or whatever, like, and hard to hide and as big as the ship they are striking, that kind of thing, or that they'd have to hit multiple drones at these ships to stop them or whatever. And it doesn't. As a matter of fact, you can strike just a couple of ships and give them minor damage, and they are stuck there. This is one of the reasons why Jimmy Carter famously and wisely turned over control of the Panama Canal to Panama, because then that gave the locals an interest in keeping it open that they previously had not had. And the issue that they were bumping up against in the late 70s especially was that one leftist group of terrorists siding with Cuba or whoever else could just get a boat, load it with explosives, get it into the canal, blow it up, and it wouldn't even have to cause that much damage to shut the canal for a year. And so they needed a buy-in from everybody around, right? And so one of the ways you do that is to give it back to them, and then have a security agreement with them over time. By the way, there was also no $1 anything. There was no perfunctory $1 changeover in the contracting at all. Trump made that shit up. It's just been kind of like an urban myth that's gone on for a long time. And it was much closer to sort of like the lease of Hong Kong that the British signed ultimately till 1999. It was very similar to that, is the idea that this will be kind of the cutoff. It would sunset. And during that time, the flow through there continued unabated and helped immensely. So there you go. There's a couple of, and let's see. So right now, the current status of things. Let me give you the rundown. 140 U.S. troops wounded and 7 killed so far. Iran is still striking infrastructure, including they hit the Dubai airport or near the Dubai airport, shutting it down for a couple of hours. And then they have restricted, they haven't stopped fully, but that it doesn't, again, I think the White House, by and large being full of morons, have miscalculated in that Trump thinks they'd have to shove a bunch of boats in there or fill the place with mines to make it impassable. We're also, sending Marines in. We'll talk about that in a moment. Brent crude is at $1.02 to $1.05 per barrel today. Gas prices, $3.72. That's right, almost up $1.35 or so, depending on where you are from last week. Diesel prices are nearing $5 a gallon. The IEA is planning this, 400 million barrel release, which is, from their point of view, it's 40 days worth of supply. but it won't. I mean, it won't be enough. And like part of it, they have as many transport problems as the Strait of Hormuz almost at this point. Getting it out and getting it to ships and getting it to other places. That's a multi-week period of time, and they haven't even started the process. So, okay. We hit Karg Island this week, of course. Pentagon says that 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels were destroyed in the Gulf. These are the larger ones. They can do it with speedboats, so it's stupid. Anyways, and then Trump has done this thing where he's like asking other countries, especially China, to, I guess, to police the Strait themselves. Hold on, I'll bring that up because again, this is one of the most tiresome, like ignorant reversals in this whole process, and he's trying to do it in a way that acts like. Hold on, I'm calling up the entire gaggle. We watched part of it just now, but the greater part of the gaggle, and then he's doing this lunch at the Trump Kennedy thing, which I don't even. Ugh. Here it is. Trump gaggle. Yeah. This was. Yeah, this guy right here. Dink. There we go.
A lot of things to talk about, but there's not much I can say to you about them. So one of those little problems in life. And we had some very good results today, as you probably heard.
One of those little problems in life, when you can't discuss where and when you're bombing a country because of the national security rules around that. It's just one of those little problems of life.
Iran.
It's like when war becomes an excursion. Who hasn't been there?
Very strong results militarily. We're talking to countries about policing the straits.
No. So he's talking at countries about policing the straits. Which, by the way, I have to say sounds like something, it sounds like a line from Queer as Folk. I think we're going to have to start policing the straits. I can literally hear it.
Because they are the ones, we don't get oil, very little, 1%, 2%. China's,
who is that guy?
an example, gets about 90% of its oil from the
40.
Hormuz Strait. And
but a 4 looks like a 9 if your brain is turning to tapioca, so,
nice to have other countries police.
Do our work for us, finish the war we started, bail us out of stupid decisions. Shall I go on?
Stand with us, and we'll help. We'll work with them. Militarily, as far as I'm concerned, we've essentially defeated.
Essentially. Basically.
And I guess they can have a little bit of fight back, but not much.
Yeah, but it doesn't take much to shut the Strait of Hormuz.
Not much. We've taken out their air forces, we've taken out their navy. We've taken out their air defense. There's no air defense whatsoever.
Their air defense. Their anti-aircraft batteries and is what he means.
We've taken out
sort of.
the leadership times 2 or 3.
We've taken out the leadership times 2 or 3. I know. Nut warning. I can't do it right now because apparently there's a weirdness from... Oh, wait. Here we go. There was... Oh, no. Yeah, it's still the thing. I'm getting a spinning beach ball of death anytime I try to scroll over OBS. It's I'm asking too much of it right now. So apologies. Nut warning. Just prepare yourself.
3. We'll find out soon. But militarily, it's been amazing. We attacked Karg Island, and we left just the one little area standing, and the standing part is where they have the pipes, all the oil pipes.
Yeah, all the pipes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is the big kind of Hans Landa. They don't want to destroy the pipes.
And
It's where they have all the pipes on Karg Island, where they pipe things, because we don't want to destroy the piping on the island
We can do that on 5 minutes' notice. We have it all locked and loaded and ready to go if we want to do it. But we
Finish off the pipes.
chose not to do it. I chose not to do it yet. We'll see what happens.
Yet. Yeah. What? You better watch yourself, pipes. You pipes. If you don't come to the table, there's going to be hell to pay.
They want to negotiate. They want to negotiate badly. I don't think they're ready.
Maybe it's because they're not saying that they want to negotiate.
Just on what I'm hearing, they want to negotiate badly, as they should. But I don't think they're ready to do what they have to do. But I think.
What does that even mean? Anybody? Does anybody? What does that even mean? For real? How in the? Oh, by the way, yes, I was reading a bunch of Flashpoint related stuff this morning, and right, yeah, thank you, Benny. I've got to save that for later. Whoops. There we go. Thank you. Did that. It made my it blew up everything. It destroyed the actual. The end times just happened. We're back. We're back. It was a short end times. It was a temporary end right before the new beginning.
At some point, but we're doing very well with respect to that whole situation.
We're doing very well in respect to war and blowing things up.
In Iran. We are talking to other countries about working with us on the policing of the Strait.
Again, no, you're not. You're asking, and they're telling you to go pound sand. Like, to be honest, that's why I got all mad and started fretting about, England won't bail us out of this situation. China should send warships into the Strait of Hormuz. Said no fucking president ever.
And I think we're getting good response. If we do, that's great. And if we don't, that's great too. But remember, like as an example, in many cases, they're NATO countries. We're always there for NATO.
Yeah, and they won't come and bail us out of this war of choice that I just decided I had to do to cover, we help them with their borders. They should help us with our Epstein distraction strategy.
We're helping them with Ukraine.
No, we're not. We're helping Ukraine with Ukraine.
It's got a notion in between us. Doesn't affect us, but we've helped them. It'd be interesting to see what country wouldn't help us with a very...
By the way, he's slobbering as he speaks. That's what this whole, overlip thing...
small endeavor.
I'm just saying this guy should hose down his phone after.
Just keep...
Put it in some rubbing alcohol and then a bowl of rice.
Being the Strait open, that by comparison it's small because Iran has very little firepower left. Their missiles are down to a low number. You see, they're shooting very few of them. You know why? Because they don't have very many of them.
Or they're waiting to drag you into a longer conflict by moving them around to new places and then waiting till they strike. And no, you know what? Just assume they're gone. They evaporated. We don't even... I don't even know why we even pretend they existed in the first place.
And because we've decimated their manufacturing capability.
Not obliterated. Hopefully decimated means more than obliterated. I don't know. In the absolute destruction, I don't know where along the chain decimation and obliteration. I always thought obliteration clearly near the end. Decimation somewhere in the... You decimated my plans for a lovely holiday, as opposed to you obliterated the place we were going to go entirely.
The drones are way down. They're down to about 20% of what they had. Still have some. And they're pretty tough. But
yeah, 20%, still pretty tough.
The drones are down, and we're starting hitting, as of yesterday, we're hitting places where they manufacture the drones. We think most of which we know where they are. So it's a very strong military operation, just as it was in Venezuela. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world by far.
No.
Not even a contest. And I think people understand that.
Also, the idea that this is just like Venezuela is beyond insane.
And we will finish the job.
Mr. President, which countries have said that they will help?
Well, I can't say yet. It's a little...
Which countries have said they will help? None. Absolutely zero.
Contacted today and last night, but we've had some positive response. We had a few that would rather not get involved.
A few. That would be all of them.
Is China one of them?
I don't want to tell you about that.
I don't want to tell you about that. I'm trying to kiss Xi's ass so my son can open up a crypto mine in Xinjiang where they can make Muslims sit on stationary bicycles, and it's a new form of renewable power that they've been working on where they can just drive these crypto mines.
I can't really.
Thank you, Tony, for the stars. By the way, hit the like, share the show, etc., etc. It's the morning show. I always forget. Like, subscribe. Will you subscribe? You're not subscribed. You should subscribe. Subscribe. Also subscribe.
For sure, but China's an interesting case study.
It is. It is. We got to really do the math on it.
They get most of their oil, as you know, by far. They get a lot.
They get about 40%.
90% from the Strait.
90% of the oil from there goes to Asia. And he thinks China is Asia. Just for the record.
My wife said, would you like to come in and we'll find out. Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
That's what you said to Xi Jinping about sending warships into the Strait of Hormuz. Would you like to come in and we'll find out if they want to?
You know, there's some
Did you send an Evite or a written invitation? I know they're big on paper.
other deeper reasons why they may not.
There are deeper reasons why they may not. Is any of the reasons, by the way, your generals' heads exploding about the national security issues with this?
It should come in my opinion. It never made sense for years. If you go back and look at what I've said years ago, I said, why are we maintaining the Hormuz Strait?
Yeah, he totally said that back. I think he brought it up on The Apprentice season 3.
It's really there for China and many other countries.
Because it's the world market for oil, and if they can't buy it from there, they'll buy it from someplace else, and that drives the price up. There's not an infinite supply of oil.
Why are they doing it? And that's because we had weak leadership, to be honest with you. But I'm bringing it up now because I think even long term, I think it's something that other countries should help us with.
How many other countries, Mr. President?
And again, remember this, about 7. We talked to about 7.
About 7.
He talked to about 7 countries, and of the 7, goose egg.
Just remember that it's something that we don't need, and these countries do need. And yet for years, it's like, for years we've been maintaining it, doing a great job.
Also, no, we haven't. There have been several times where Iran, during the Iran-Iraq war, where we had to reopen it because our country, we have a $27 trillion fucking economy, and it matters more to us than we'd like to admit, especially back then. There's also a push in the direction of this that we are eventually weaning ourselves off of oil. In the Middle East, one of the reasons why, ironically, it's catching fire right now is sort of like the last gasps of this industry that they see themselves fading out over the next decade.
And now that the war now that they've been diminished in terms of military,
They've been diminished in terms of military.
Military has been greatly diminished. I think
In terms of military.
it's a good thing for other countries to come in. Now, it would have
When they've only got 20% of their drones left, and they should send in their smaller ships than ours that would really be sunk by a single
been
drone.
nice, as I said to the Prime Minister of the UK, who sort of was reluctant to put his 2 aircraft carriers
Sorta was reluctant. I think the answer was no.
into harm's way.
Yeah, I don't know why. When you put it that way.
That would be 2 weeks ago. And as soon as we demolished, essentially, pretty much demolished them, not over yet, but
Pretty much.
pretty much,
Basically.
we're in great shape. Let's put it that way, as everybody knows. He said, we'd like to send our aircraft carriers. I said, I don't want them after we win the war. I want them before we start the war.
So why are you asking, if we won the war, then why are you asking anybody to go down there? If he's offering them, why are you still asking other countries if we don't need, what the shit? What? I'm sorry, I had a moment where I thought this was supposed to make sense. It's a failure on my part, and it won't happen again.
Whether we get support or not. But I can say this, and I said it to them. We will remember.
Remember what? You're going to turn it over to the other countries that need to run it. Yeah, we'll remember what? To leave? Prove it.
Well, it start immediately, but it will take a little time to get here. Some of the countries have minesweepers, that's good. Some of the countries have a certain type of boat that could help us.
A certain type of boat that could help us. What kind of boat are you talking about?
Some of the countries would be a little helpful. Remember, it only takes a couple of people to screw up the Strait. A couple of...
Yes, exactly. Which is why they don't want to put their boats in, what's that phrase? Harm's way. And no one would expect... Oh, shit. I'm sorry. I did it again, didn't I? I fell for reality. I'm trying to, I think it's called reality forcing. I'm trying to crowbar reality into this surreal Earth 3 nonsensical moment.
Sure, you don't
beg your pardon.
need their military is defeated, but all you need is a few people dropping mines here and there.
Yep, that's all you need. Few people dropping mines here and there.
You know, you louse it up. So
And you louse it up. That's Operation Don't Louse It Up. Too late, sir. That operation failed.
we need. I'm demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory because
That's not England's territory.
it is their territory. It's the place from which they get their energy.
Oh, okay. I thought, no, okay. So this is the place from which they get their energy. I was always under the impression that most of them got it from there because it was closer and they purchased it and it was available, and that if it was removed from the world market, they would get it from someplace else and that would drive the price up. But I didn't realize it was just the gas station closest to their house, and if it shuts down, they'll just walk. Never occurred to me.
And they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all because
Yes, a lot of us have been making that case for a very long time. Especially the last 3 weeks.
we don't need it. We have a lot of oil. We're the number one producer anywhere in the world times two.
No, not times 2.
By double, at least
Not at least by double.
double. Now I think it's much higher than that.
Now it's like Saudi Arabia's like 11 million barrels a day, and we're like 13 something.
But we do
Thanks, Joe Biden. Thanks, shale oil during Obama.
it. It's almost like we do it for habit. But we also do it for some very good allies that we have in the Middle East.
Sir, you mentioned that
Yes, the Kuwaitis, the UAE, Bahrain, the Saudis.
Iran wants to make a deal. However, earlier today, we heard their foreign minister say they never said they wanted to make a deal about
Yeah. Ma'am, excuse me, miss, you nasty, nasty woman. Have you not learned that you don't ask a question that pushes back on the bullshit he just... Look, he said it, it's bullshit, and we all move on. You can't re-ask the question with evidence and information. In case you couldn't hear it very clearly, she brought up that earlier he said Iran desperately wants to make a deal. They really want to make a deal, but he doesn't think they're ready yet. And Iran pushed back saying, we never asked to make a deal. Piss off, basically. And she's bringing that up.
do whatever they can to prevent
What they tell you and what they tell the public. You know, I just put out a truth about their disinformation. I assume most of you saw it.
Okay, so what they tell you, lady, from the news, and what they tell the public is different from what they tell me. So, but what he's saying is behind closed doors, you know, they're reaching out, please make a deal with us, but in public, they're saber rattling and the like. And that by reporting what they say in public, and it's contradiction with what he says they say in private, if indeed they do, is not really a question of how this is going to work out, but how it's a question of how believable he is. And that's why he gets all snippy about it. It's why he becomes a whiny little biatch.
When they use AI, they said
By the way, they didn't use AI to put out this statement. It's like the foreign minister said it in an interview.
USS Abraham Lincoln, one of the largest ships in the world, an aircraft carrier.
Why is she nodding? Other than the fact that we know it's AI.
And they show pictures of it burning. It was never attacked. It was never burning. The Wall Street Journal put out a false story that 5 of our big, beautiful tankers that we feed the planes with.
Our tankers that we feed the planes with. Our planes apparently eat tankers for breakfast. He means aircraft. He used the refueling airplanes. 5 of them were damaged. 1 is essentially out of commission. The other 4 were apparently they could recover them.
They give the planes the gas.
They'll be able to use. They're the plane. Yeah, they give the planes the gas. Thank you. That clears it up. I'm sorry. I wish I could put it as succinctly as he does.
They don't like the gas.
Right.
Jet fuel. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of gasoline.
Yes, we understand.
They don't like the gas.
Uh-huh.
They were all essentially destroyed. They weren't destroyed at all. In fact, 4 of them were not even, literally were not damaged. And 1 of them has slight damage and will be back in the air soon. But
they literally were damaged. They just literally weren't devastated or obliterated or destroyed.
If you read the Wall Street,
they're still airworthy.
Journalists, like they were totally decimated and destroyed, like Iran has been. So they put out phony stories. The kamikaze boats. The kamikaze boats don't exist. They're fake, and you can almost see that when you look at them. It looks great, yeah. Because if they did exist, we'd hit them just like we hit other boats all over the place. But they don't exist. In fact, some of the people say, where are the boats? Well, how come nobody's seen the boats? You know why? Because it's AI generated. It's fake. And I found, I didn't realize this before we started, but Iran is known for a lot of fake news.
He just found this out.
They deal with our fake news. And I actually think it's pretty criminal because our media companies, who have no credibility whatsoever, are putting out information that they know is false.
Okay, now, real quick, if I may, and I know I only have about 10 minutes left before our dear friend Tara Devlin joins us to talk about this. I don't know if you know this, but the reason why he's saying media companies instead of networks or the fake news in that regard, but he's saying media companies specifically. Now, why that language? Well, it's because Tucker Carlson apparently is believed to be working for the CIA, and that yeah, let's see if I'll bring this one up. There you go. And let's see, this is the one. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, there's so many of these. It's this one right here. So, yesterday, Tucker Carlson put out this video of using my favorite phrase from him, we discovered the CIA is reading our text to frame us for a crime. It's kind of a big statement. Right? We discovered the CIA is reading our text to frame us for a crime. Now, the crew is like, fuck you, dude. I didn't say any of this. The argument is that he's violating FARA, that he is actually, he went to the White House and he was making an attempt to lobby on behalf of the Iranians. That he wasn't there just because he thinks we shouldn't fight a war for oil or we shouldn't fight a war for Iran or any of that, but that he is... he was there to actually advocate on behalf of the Iranians. And hence this big maggot sphere blow up about, Tucker being in deep shit. The DOJ is preparing to charge Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson exposes CIA and DOJ plan to charge him with absurd crimes. It's absurd. It's ridiculous, which of course we aren't, and we don't, and we won't, and we aren't, and we don't. We can cover this in the afternoon show later on today, rather than dive into it. But it's a rather big issue, and there's a belief amongst maggots that when Tucker Carlson came to the White House and Donald Trump saw him and then posted the picture of them smiling together, that it was a setup, that their whole goal was to lure the Iranians into thinking that Tucker Carlson was advocating for them, and that if he's smiling over hanging out with Donald Trump means we're fine. They're not going to attack. And so this was part of a rope-a-dope or whatever. Yes, and he used the term outrageous. That's right, during the video, which again, that you can tell when somebody's lying. If somebody complains about outrageous attacks on somebody else, they're either in it with them, or if it's far enough away, it's legit. They just use the word outrageous and it's silly. But if they ever go, these charges against me are outrageous, that means they're personally, emotionally outraged, but it doesn't mean they're wrong, or it means it's true. Whatever they're saying, it's true. Let's see. Tucker, Iranians, let's see, Trump. There you go. So this is a, here it is. The CIA. This is the essential belief. So here you go. This just so you know where maggots are on this issue. It's pretty hilarious. The CIA knew Tucker was speaking to the Iranian regime. That means that when Trump invited Tucker to the Oval Office multiple times in the lead up to the Iran strike, I don't know if it's multiple times. I think it was just once, but it's shitter. Who cares? He knew full well that Tucker was back-channeling information to the Iranians. Essentially, Trump seems to have used Tucker as an unwitting counter-intel asset to convince Khomeini he was bluffing, that nothing would happen. Trump was basically able to kill Khomeini thanks to Tucker's arrogance. Now Tucker's also legally fucked. And then this is the video that he says, we discovered that which is of course absurd. I'm not an anti-Semite, and any anti-Semite would never say that they aren't. They would proudly say it, especially if they've been caught being one, because that's how it works, obviously. So, there's a bit of sweaty brow.
The other day, I found out that the CIA is preparing some kind of criminal referral against me, a crime report to the Department of Justice on the basis of a supposed crime I committed. What's that crime? Well, talking to people in Iran before the war. Okay, so that's his version of events. Which is particularly hilarious. No, I don't think it was. A lot of people talked to people in Iran before the war. Trump himself talked to people in Iran before the war. People with family in Iran talked to people in Iran before the war. It kind of matters who, right? And I gotta say, I'm for this. Let them chew each other to pieces. I honestly don't care. But yeah, so that's in case you didn't know and you're not following along the current psycho dust up on the right. The current one is that Tucker, who's clearly an asshat for the Russians, was by proxy acting as an asshat for the Iranians. I would argue that there's our lovely Tara Devlin, who's waiting in the wings to come in here. That he, many people would say that Tucker Carlson is acting for the benefit of the Iranians, when in reality, Russia needs Iran's drone tech and support, and they need their the shells and missiles and stuff that Iran was making for them as well for their war effort. And if that dries up because Iran's got to defend its own borders, then it just makes their job of genociding the Ukrainians harder. So they asked their buddy Tucker Carlson, who's always there with a ball gargle for Putin, to run interference. And so he went to the White House
on behalf of the Iranians and was, started, talking about how maggots don't want to fight a war for Israel and yada yada, which is about 50-50 amongst that crowd, because 50% don't want to do it because it's a bad idea, and the other 50% will do anything Trump does because even though it's a bad idea, it's a Trump idea, so who cares? And so he's about to be hit, ironically enough, by a FARA violation that can be linked in many ways to Russia, to Donald Trump's support for, that this is a normal back channel that they can expect would work. But it doesn't right now because Donald Trump has decided that the butter is on the other side of the bread, so he doesn't care. And he and his buddies are making money from from the UAE and from Qatar and Bahrain and from Saudis. And so at this point, they've got more money to spread around than Vladimir Putin does. Putin's got a bug out bag full of American funds, and he can vanish at some point. And he's probably got $200 billion to float around. But Donald Trump gave himself a $5 trillion extension of our country's debt ceiling. And within that, he has been shuffling money all over the place, supporting his cryptocurrency, using all kinds of national security reasons for giving out contracts and stuff that will just basically fill up bank accounts. Look at the peace board, the board of peace, how bored of peace they are. There's $3 billion just sitting in a slush fund that will only start being paid out when plans to break ground for Trump Plaza in Gaza will start, which will be kind of never. So they will get to loan out, invest, and leverage that money and turn it into, imagine what you could do with the stock market that you have control over, or gas prices that you have control over with a $3 billion slush fund. So let me bring in our dear friend, Tara Devlin, joining us right now. There she is. Yay. Hold on one second. It'll take a moment for it to catch up. It's being a little slow these days, and I'm not quite sure. There she is. Hey. Welcome.
Hi. Whoa.
So
it was very loud in my headphones.
Oh, I'm louder. You are.
No, I was when I said hi. I was like, hi.
Well, all right. It's very dynamic. It's a dynamic show this morning. Let's start with a couple of things. The war in Iran right now. We got 140 plus casualties, 20 gravely. About, I think, 13 or 14 dead so far. Some numbers are still coming in. And I don't, again, it gets to this situation where I don't trust anybody on either side to tell the truth about the number of dead. We'll downplay ours, they'll upplay theirs. This is what it's like when your country's run by an arrogant asshole. The Iranians are going through the same thing. I think there's a lot of sympathy between the average American and the average Iranian right now, and that we're both kind of under this kind of rock'em sock'em robot bullshit that our leaders are doing. But we've got the Strait of Hormuz is basically closed essentially right now.
Yeah.
Oil's at 103 a barrel. Even undoing that process, getting the ships going again, it delays everything by a couple of months. If you were it's just like the tariff threats last year. This is another like triple whammy essentially that businesses are going through, because this affects shipping, and shipping affects when your products will arrive, and tariffs affected whether or not you're going to be able to afford your products in the first place. And then, you can't undo it tomorrow and it'll plunge, and then all of a sudden the boats start chugging really cheaply. What ends up happening is you end up having a lot of tankers full of oil that don't go anywhere, that sit out there waiting for a station to go. That's what the Russian sanction lifting was about. It's a bunch of idle ships full of oil that Russia has been filling these tankers up and just parking them in the ocean, which is an environmental disaster waiting to happen. So, and then Trump calling it an excursion when it's supposed to be an incursion because he's stupid.
He's an idiot. Yeah.
Excursion. It's an excursion. It's a war. It's a military action. It's like an appetizer that you eat as an entree. It's a sharing plate that's for the whole table. It's
he's three-dimensional chessing it too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Only he could have done something what did he say? Only I could do this shit. That's what he said.
Exactly. Yes, it's like, and it's he's operating like, look, you don't have to, buy the whole thing. We'll just operate on a monthly plan. You know what I mean? Like this
Who else?
is the
Right.
net.
Who else would do this
Who
shit?
wants
Right.
who wants to buy in on our Netflix subscription war in the Strait of Hormuz?
Right. And the fact that they set us up for failure, too, because if it was such an imminent threat, putting aside they should have warned us about it. He should have talked about it. He would have
Right.
ran on it, right?
Right.
But they undid all of Joe Biden's green energy infrastructure building, and that would have set us up for not even having to worry about the Straits of Hormuz, right?
Right.
I don't know.
It wouldn't. It literally would have driven oil prices down to the point where they would have, if something had happened in this region, even between the players there, it would have risen to a point where it didn't affect us at all, because by and large our consumer base, and again, I think Biden was right multiple times, but he was right specifically about that ship has sailed. And the irony of this particular war, just like any kind of, like right after the Israel-Gaza war started, there was this idea that, oh God, war in the Middle East drives up oil prices. It's going to cost us more. And it didn't. It by and large didn't, because Israel and Gaza don't produce oil. And so, and the idea that proxies might slow down some ships or Iran might decide to jump was a little nuts. And that's where Trump went immediately when he came in. But Iran, as an oil producer, firing on other oil producers, namely the UAE and Saudi Arabia specifically, less about the Strait of Hormuz and them actually firing on Bahrain and that kind of stuff, because there's this longstanding Sunni Shia thing. They are also going to be vying for a resource control of the area. They both would rather, whatever oil does come out of there, they'd like to have control of it, right? And have a say. I mean, they'd like the Panama Canal, the Strait of Hormuz, from one side or the other, even if it's protection money, which is effectively what's been paid this whole time. And so obviously Trump fell into this sort of trap of, I guess his brain lives in somewhere in the late 70s, early 80s in terms of how shit works. Yeah. And he's never going to shake it. But we're gonna transition. The price of oil going up like this, and this constant threat, and this awareness of the constant threat, is going to jumpstart electric cars again. Ironically enough. Yeah.
And it should have. We should have been doing this anyway, right? And that's what Joe Biden did talk about. And I also talked about this on my show too, because when you think about everything that the Republicans have done to us to set us up for failure in general. I mean, go back to Reagan taking the solar panels off the White House, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
Rolling
back, we would have. Who would have? Where would have been in the Middle East?
Where would solar? Well, that goes to my point of, like, technology, advances based on the attention and the funding that can go into such a thing. And if you set it back intentionally, like Reagan did, think of if we would have gotten where we are with solar panels now, which is incredibly efficient and great, in the 90s. On that time arc, because think in the last even 10 years, and I would argue since the second term of Obama, the advances in solar technology that have happened specifically because of governmental interest and because we got into a bit of a space race with China about solar panels, because they wanted to produce them, and in producing them, they also tried to out efficiency other people for themselves and for us, and that growth. Challenge people to advance the technology.
Yep.
There was no new discovery, though. There was no magical, like, we discovered solarnium, and it just, this rock that pulls in the sunlight, and it's magic, and we just make them out of that. It's just the regular advances in technology as scientists work towards this goal. And if that goal, if the starting line hadn't been interrupted multiple times, we'd be so much further along, and it wouldn't matter at all.
That's right. Yeah, it's true. And that's what really gets me angry, because we talk about it on our shows and all that, but you never hear them connect the dots on mainstream media. There are consequences. Every cause, there's an effect. So of course, and now Republicans are just dragging us back to the 19th century. I mean, that's Trump's goal when it comes to energy. It's just keeping us completely hooked
and
on
the
oil.
Economy. I mean, think about tariffs. Tariffs are a income tax method of running your country. Now, of course, all it takes is an embargo or a bunch of other countries to do sanctions against you, and your economy collapses or is dented so much it fails under its own weight, which is exactly why we went to an internal focus, because it drives people to work more. People who work more produce more. They produce more taxes out of that, and other people can't shut that down as easily. But if you're just paying all your bills with shit that comes in on ships from other countries, if those ships stop sailing, you don't have any money to run your government anymore.
That's right. That's right. And that's what I keep hearing, too, from right-wingers when they contact me. They're like, we should go back to tariffs only, because they even mentioned it in the State of the Union, that now this is their new thing. Trump said, we're going to get rid of the income tax and we're going to go back to tariffs as a way of completely funding government. Okay, good luck, Bobby.
Cool. We're going back to wood boats, too? Are we going back? Cool. If we're going back to fucking homesteading and the Wild West, if we're going to do a big Westworld reset of the entire American culture, then have at it. I guess we'll all be fucking Amish in about 2 years.
They're delusional, and they don't. That's what I can't get. That they never set us up for success, never. And then when their policies inevitably fail, they blame Democrats. They blame Biden. I'm sure you saw J.D. Vance going off about Biden is the reason gas prices are up. Biden.
Right. Because he should have, by the way, started this war and all the ancillary rollover impacts that it would have financially years ago, instead of us having to do it, is the theory. The problem is the illusion that it had to be done is the stupid part. I mean, amongst many stupid parts. Right, no.
Because we had a deal. We had, you know what I mean? This is what's so infuriating too. We had a deal and it was working. And it wasn't just the Americans saying it, international overseers and all of the people that were going into Iran, they were saying they were complying. I mean, there were many mechanisms in place that we weren't just taking their word for it like he does with Putin, right? I spoke to Putin. Yeah, he very strongly denied it. Right. I mean, he's killing. They're sending Iranians. They're giving the Iranians intel, and what does Trump say? Oh yeah, he's helping them a little.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay.
We help other people a little. We got that's the whole. We got killers too. Well, again, this goes towards that this idea that there's this big club, this little club, and you're not in it, which is actually a big club of a lot of people. And the problem that Trump has, and the problem that Putin has, and the problem I would argue that Xi Jinping has, is that group is expanding and has over the last little bit. Ali Velshi did a great piece about wealth inequality in the United States, which is very valuable on its face. But one of the things that he didn't point out, and this has to do with like almost ignoring the advances for the average person that Obama put in and that Biden put in that are having some resilience, is that there used to be this thing where half of the populace couldn't afford a $400 emergency. We heard this over and over again for almost 2 decades. Okay, first of all, that's also an urban myth. It was put out by a company that was trying to start these accounts where there would be these employee savings accounts that would be different than the government. Instead, you pay into Social Security, but also you could offer as a Benny to your employees this savings account that you would put some money in for them that they can't touch until they leave the company or retire. They have access to it if they're fired. They have access to it if they leave or whatever. But that money sits in an account that the company itself can leverage. Now, granted, if that company goes under, poof, there goes the fucking money, right? And especially if it's an Enron situation. And that's exactly what they're shooting for. That's the purpose of this. But the thing was, we'll do this thing where every year you'll put $400 of your employees' money into this. They'll barely notice. A couple dollars a week and stuff, but they'll get this, and they'll get interest on it to 3% or 2%. You can loan it out for 6%, but they'll get 3% is the idea. And so it was creating this giant slush fund for businesses. That's where that 400 came from. But it became a marker for what people accepted. That marker is now a third of Americans can't afford $1,000, which means that because of the child tax credit and because of a better support network that Biden and Obama worked very hard on, the what you can afford has gone up, and the number of people who are really pinched, and I don't mean comfortably, impossible for them to do. They could not. They would get evicted if they had $1,000 emergency. That's what that number is supposed to mean. And Ali brought that one up, which it points to that under Obama and Biden, we were moving in the right direction. And every time Republicans get in, they shake the fucking crab bucket and then push us back towards where half of people can't afford $400.
Yeah.
Okay. So one other thing. The other thing he said was the number of billionaires in the United States has grown, right? Has almost tripled. And the bottom half, though, and I don't know that he brought up in this, but the bottom half has added like 1.4 trillion during the Biden years to the bottom line across that part of it. And this is what Trump and his people are mad about. This is what they're angry at, is because they started seeing progress in these areas. Started eliminating, the government handouts and the money and the printing money during COVID, which was just helping people get through the same way we do with giant corporations when they get stuck. We just did it on a person-to-person level, and this pissed off a bunch of people. But interestingly enough, out of that was born 8 or 10, maybe even 20-ish new billionaires who built stuff that appeals to that strata of the populace. And those guys are competing with Elon Musk. Those guys are competing with Mark Zuckerberg. Those guys are, you could argue that Mark Cuban's probably one of them or whatever, or the people who actually run Amazon, because Bezos doesn't even do it anymore. Bezos is retired.
Right, he's on his with his trophy wife, right?
Yes, exactly, right. And hey, love comes in all forms. I'm not going to question anybody's. Knock yourself out. As long as it's consensual, I'm cool. We have enough problem with non-consensual stuff before I start policing whether or not I think there's a genuine. And if he wants to be old in a wheelchair with a Anna Nicole Smith pushing him around in it, or didn't Stephen Hawking have like a sexual harassment charge by his nurse?
Yes, it was. Yeah, he left his wife, his long-suffering wife, who stayed with him
through all of it. Yeah,
through the worst in his decline of his disease, and then he left her for his nurse.
Right. Well, but one of his other nurses, I guess maybe the one before this one, sued him for sexual harassment.
Wow.
Which again,
you see what I'm saying? Men shouldn't be in charge. I'm sorry. This is a problem here.
I beg your pardon. Christy Noem, anyone?
Yeah. Oh, true. You're that's right. I mean, that's the thing about Republican women, though. They have to be even bigger misogynists or worse. They have to be worse.
Still
than the
women,
men, really.
That's the point, though. And nobody gets away scot-free. I'm too much of a Libra to let that slide. I beg your pardon.
And Ayn Rand we could go on about horrible women. Yes, true.
Yeah, exactly. And I love when people are like, we need to get the young people involved. I mean, you mean like everybody who watches Candace Owens and the Hodge twins and Ben Shapiro and all the kids at TPUSA. I mean, Charlie Kirk was building
it in.
Let's get the new. We need some new young voices in politics. I'm like, guess what? It doesn't matter. It's not. Age isn't a factor. It's the wisdom and the direction of the person.
No,
and this idea that there's this leftover thing from the 60s that's this kind of like the kids are all right that's been stuck there. That I mean, look at the Alex Keating joke in in Growing Pains or Family Ties rather. In Family Ties. Growing Pains became a real version of that. That's so ironic with Kirk Cameron. He became this like evangelical Looney Tunes.
God, yeah.
Right, but like, hippies produce conservative kids. Conservative parents produce hippies. That rebellion isn't a one-way street. It isn't. You're fighting the man no matter what the man looks like. And the weird part, the current state of the MAGA tree is that they don't I'm always amazed at how many of the maggots are like, the government, the federal government, the president thinks that they can control. They don't create jobs. And then as soon as Trump gets in, they're like, he's created all these jobs and anything he says is fucking sunshine. It's the flip is so instantaneous and so friggin' embarrassing.
they should be embarrassed, but they don't see that. I wish that, I would have more respect for them if they were sincere and they weren't such hypocrites that were so easily exposed. But of course,
well, have you seen any of the kind of like the post Charlie Kirk stuff that's been going on? About Candace Owens
from
and
you
Erica.
too, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I try to cover this because I do think one of the things that diminishes the vote on our side a lot of times is twofold. One is this idea of a red district, that you live in it doesn't matter,
Right.
we're in a red district, and I think there's what people don't realize. There's so many Democrats in areas, and they're all a block away from each other. They don't talk, they don't know each other. The outreach doesn't exist because it's considered a red district. That if they started talking to each other, they'd go, Jesus Christ, we outnumber the Republicans in our district. If they voted every time, if just Democrats just voted their conscience and voted for a Democratic candidate in primaries and elections every single time, they would be shocked at how many districts go Democratic. But there's this muted attempt because people just assume it's a red district, my vote doesn't count. That happens on the Republican side a lot, but they are literally outnumbered. They are right. Democrats aren't. By and large, there's a ton of Democrats that just don't motivate to vote in this situation. So that's why I was saying vote every time, period, end of story. The other one is that there's this illusion that if somebody's been there for a long time, they're bad, like the kind of ageism aspect that we have, and that if somebody new and young or different will solve the problem just by rolling in there. And in reality, maggots are having the same problem between Trump, the businessman, and Lauren Boebert as sort of the trophy wife of the Congress. Mm-hmm. She's a young, like she was supposed to be the younger model of Sarah Palin, right? That's what they were shooting for,
That's right.
So
well, she is kind of in a way. I mean, they're so
very
equally
much so.
dumb. Yeah.
Except one area, the Epstein files. That was the hang-up.
That's true.
That has been, and I said this was always going to be a problem. These are the two trains leaving the station. I use this analogy all the time because I want people to remember this. That the sales pitch of releasing the Epstein files and the fact that Donald Trump's in both of them are two trains on the same track headed towards each other, and they've left the station, and I don't know how long that track is. Nobody does. But at some point, they're going to smash into each other. Well, last July, you can argue that this slow motion, like scene from The Fugitive of the train smashing started happening because they put out, Pam Bondi puts out this thing that, I mean, you could argue the binders were like somebody going, "Hey, we're on the same track," that was the first thing. Like trying to warn the switcher, and the dude's like, "I don't have a switch. I'm sorry. These are just there's nowhere for you guys to go. These are complementary problems, I guess." And so and in direct conflict with reality that neither one of them could do anything about it. But you had 4 Republicans, including Lauren Boebert and Marge, sign on to this petition, the discharge petition, which meant everybody in the House and everybody in the Senate, except for Clay Higgins, I guess, couldn't be caught not voting to release this information because of the pressure.
Trump signed it, but and it was Nancy Mace too, who's another one.
That's right. Well, again, and Nancy Mace, like we talk about, like women in positions of power and the kind of situation that they find themselves in and how they end up getting there. Nancy Mace is arguably insane. She's a crazy person, but
legit.
But she very well may have become that way because of the sexual abuse she suffered and the like. So I have a tendency. This is just me. I'm not asking anybody else to do it, right? I am not asking anybody else to do it. But when a sexual assault survivor acts in ways that seem contrary to logic or are all over the map, some days they're good, some days they snap, some days they have no-go zones. And so, where that seem absurd, but are really, fundamental to them, where they actually have an almost borderline panic attack at the idea of crossing that line or going into that place. That kind of abuse, and again, people can believe she's full of shit. You're allowed to believe whatever you want. But I, for the sake of my own soul, will choose to believe that a person like that will have exactly the kind of all over the map vacillation, fear of trans men, but also wanting the Epstein stuff coming out. Like it's almost it's almost like a Law and Order episode. It's so on the nose, and she produced this bill about like puppy mills and stuff, and was fighting very hard to stop puppy mills, which seems really lovely.
I agree with that. Yeah,
I do too. But interestingly that it was her fixation in the middle of all this stuff that's going on. That sounds like somebody who's dealing with trauma, and her panic attacky weirdness, and her talking to Hillary Clinton, how she sounded in that. I'm gonna cut women who've been through stuff slack, even if in a jump ball, if she came down politically on the opposite side of the aisle from me, I don't know if it's born out of a natural source, if it's nature or nurture. It seems like nurture to me. Some people will say it's nature. I think that's a great philosophical decision, but for my purposes, I was talking. But she signed on to it. She signed on to the Epstein files.
Yeah.
And
because she says that she was sexually assaulted as a teenager, which I believe.
And again, by her husband and his friends, and they filmed it.
Right.
And
but she says that. I don't know about that one, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
again,
she used the speech and debate shield to put these allegations out, and there's no, these men are suing her, so it just seems very.
I agree.
I don't know. And there was a whole. She said she was in touch with the sheriff, but the sheriff's response to that was like, yeah, that just because you call me on the phone doesn't mean like there's an ongoing investigation. So she was
she tried the Trump tactic, right?
Yeah,
and I'm totally with you. Both could be true in the circumstance. She could be actually abused after the fact, meaning that she didn't know she was being filmed and she was participating in something that she thought was consensual, and now she's embarrassed by it, and that is I would argue a form of sexual assault, to film someone and release sex with them that they believed was consensual with you, and then you are using it to blackmail, control, or frighten them. That's equally as bad as raping them in the first place, because it is, in my mind, a form of rape. Because you are using their consent in the moment. It's like having sex with somebody who was dancing with you provocatively and hanging out, and once they're drunk, they're like, well, she seemed up for it at the time. I just assumed the yes, like that. It's just as wrong. Those are the things that I think, and those are, I understand, hard lines for me, that I will give that space, because, and again, if she was running for president, we'd need to ask bigger questions, but she's a congressperson from a red district, and it really is just...
she's running for governor, though.
Yes,
now,
exactly, which I don't see happening. So again, that's another, whatever.
Right.
But
she needs help. They all do. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, not at all. This is just one of those, sort of philosophical discussions about where MAGA is right now, and this assumption of the monolith. And that's what I want to push back on all the time when we talk about this idea that these people are ride or die Trump forever, and nothing's going to change that. And I hear it again and again, even after this stuff. And I got to say, I see legit cracks happening. And part of that seems to me is why they've gone for redistricting, why they're trying to get the SAVE Act shoved through and get it, which, by the way, wouldn't even go into effect till next year, because that's how law works. Right, so I don't know why, like, Elon Musk and James Woods and all these dipshits on Shitter have been crowing about, we need to Save America Act to pass before the elections or we're screwed. And you're like, guys.
Well, maybe, the presidential election it would affect if it came down to it, right?
Right.
So,
But they think it's going to affect the midterms. They think they're going to, because, and it, and it
they're
clearly.
Not that smart.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I'm not on Shitter, so I can't like respond back going, you do understand how a law goes into effect after it's signed. Like
they don't. That's what I think. They really don't. Elon Musk especially, he doesn't understand civics in our government. He's not. I mean, not whatever.
That might be the ketamine talking. Allegedly.
True. He's just. But somebody, the way he thinks about it is that it doesn't matter. He doesn't have to understand civics. Excuse me, I'm choking here. I'm choking on myself. So and he doesn't have to understand civics. You know what I mean? Because thy will be done. My will be done. That's the way they look at our society.
Yeah. Like I don't know what the was it Manus Volt, like my will as opposed to Deus Volt, God's will.
That's right. That's right. That's who they are.
Yeah. But the problem is they sell Deus Vault to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rough one.
It's
you know, because
it's a scam. Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, and obviously, okay. So I want to jump into a couple things. I'm gonna get your take on a couple things.
Okay.
Tara Devlin, who has Tara Busters,
Yes.
3 times a week now. 3.
Yes.
Three.
Tuesday, Thursdays, and Friday.
Fridays. There you go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is a great show. Please check it out, Tara Devlin.
And you will be on soon.
Yes,
right?
I insist. So, this is my son's spring break, so I'm taking it easy, other than my regular shows, but for a couple. And anyways, so we talked a little bit about the Epstein files part of it, but you know, this kind of like, this is the last dump followed by another dump, and this is the last dump followed by another dump.
Oh God!
It seems to be wearing on the MAGA tree, and beyond that, the DOJ and Kash Patel's, you know, drunken FBI leadership that is, I guess, in charge of redacting Trump from all this, has released, you know, nude pictures of victims, has released, you know, their names while hiding obvious co-conspirators, and all during that, it isn't necessarily, although there are a bunch of folks on our side of the aisle who are digging into this shit and going after him. There are a lot of maggots out there in the, you know, in the, what Trump would call the media companies, you know, that are digging into this stuff and are, you know, it's building a whole new Pizzagate from scratch about Epstein and Trump and Howard Lutnick and these parties, and Steve Bannon is playing a big factor in this. So, you know, as that grows, eventually, I think you and I believe that Democrats get in the House and the Senate. If we get control of the House and the Senate, all of it comes out, bar none. If it means, you know, Democratic, you know, lawmakers over the years have gone down, so be it. None of us give a shit. It's not a problem for the rank and file Democrats.
From the beginning.
Yep, exactly. But Republicans know that this also means, you know, Trump's entire support structure around him. You know,
my cat is getting ridiculous here.
Aw, that's not
this
ridiculous.
Is Francis.
Hi, Francis. Francis is a sweetie. You can't hear me because you're wearing headphones. But it's okay. So, but my thing is that have you seen in your rolling with the trolling around, you know, that kind of ramification coming? And I think, you know, beyond the, you know, my show and MS Now and a couple of others, you know, kind of putting a pin in Epstein every so often, going, oh, by the way, there's this search at the ranch for bodies now.
Oh yeah, right.
Do you? I just want your take on that. I'm not going to ask the obvious question of,
about
like,
the bodies.
No, just about like this rollout and how it will affect MAGA between this election and the next.
Well, that's what's so disappointing. If I don't know about you, but I see a lot of the maggots are, of course, upset, and some of them are seeing the light. But many of them are really twisting themselves, I think, to make excuses. And the way that Trump has made their brains mush, you know, do not believe your own eyes, believe what I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he goes out saying, I'm totally exonerated, and then the Republicans repeat that, like Nancy Mace, she repeats that, and Comer and all that. I'm totally exonerated. I don't know. I think that they have so devalued truth in this country that there's no trust anymore, and on the right especially, that I don't know. It does because it feels like there's no accountability at this point. There would be some accountability for. There's no accountability. Who's gone down because of the Epstein files in America so far? Nobody.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Because they have such a tight grip on the propaganda.
And if anything, Maxwell is an example of, like, they're going to go easy on you. If Trump has to say that he's gonna pardon her on the way out the door. I think if he feels the whole thing is doomed, right? And all he's got to do is hang on through another year and a half. And that's basically what Blanche presented to her. I have no doubt that during the
Right.
whatever they were doing, he just slid a note across the desk like, "Keep your mouth shut. You get pardoned at the end of this because Trump
Right.
won't
It's
care anymore."
incredible. Yeah. And I mean, just think about Pam Bondi's talking about women who are horrible. And, who she sees the unredacted Epstein files,
Yeah.
and she
Do you think?
still she puts on that
Do you think she's really
that show.
looking? Do you think she's really looking though?
Uh well, probably she's well. She was the one that told Trump that he's in there, right? That's
Yeah, but
why.
somebody else could have told her that,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
because she had 1,000 agents allegedly working on this, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I think she's got built-in plausible deniability, the same way that like Bill Barr didn't read the Mueller report. He wrote
Right. Yeah.
that breakdown, that 4-page breakdown from effectively news reports and memos that they had to send him about progress, but not the full report itself. So he could
Yeah.
legally write
Yeah.
something while still being stupid about it, still being ignorant of what was actually in it, in case he ever got busted on the legalities of it. So I think somebody else is going, Jesus Christ, he's all over these things. And she walks up and translates that into Trump speak by
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
sir, you show up a couple of times, and they're like, oh, we've got the Polaroids that Michael
Boy.
Wolff was talking about with you with a stain on your pants, getting a
Oh,
lap dance from teenage girls.
what a disgusting person. I mean, I
Yeah.
can't believe it. Sometimes I just, think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, right. Well,
What
do you think they count on that though? Do you think they count on the ick factor of it being so extreme that you can't deal? So people are like, I'd rather, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because it's a lot. It's a lot to go there
Yes.
in your life. And, I think there are a lot of people who would like, I'd rather not have this in my brain pan.
Yeah, well, because they have been so programmed to feel like they're, or to think they're under attack. Remember with Kavanaugh, when Christine Blasey Ford came
Yeah.
out and said, "This is what happened to me." I remember them interviewing. I was watching the local news here, New York One, and they were interviewing people in Staten Island, the Republican borough, and this woman was like, "Oh, it's so terrible what they're doing to him," because he was the
Right.
victim in
Yeah.
her and in their estimation. Oh, these Democrats are horrible. They're targeting our fine men, and they do it with the sexual assault allegations. And I think that maggots are programmed to view Trump as being, oh, look what they did to me. Look at the 34 felonies. It's all rigged. It's all lawfare. They're coming after me. And I do think that, I mean, look at it right now. Okay, for example, Josh Jugger, right? Who,
Oh
19
yeah.
kids and counting.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to get out of jail, right? He's in
Right.
prison for CSAM, right?
Yeah.
And he's writing Trump. He's trying to get a pardon from Trump, and he's framing it as that he's been targeted because he's such a high-profile Republican, and how how Democrats are. So
Yeah,
there are people who believe that. Mhm.
we're all anti child sexual assault material.
We
Right.
certainly are. We
Weird.
certainly are. But that's what they think. They think that the Democrats are just trying to get these good men. Oh, that's what drives me mad about Trump. As if Trump, as if they don't have the same access to the history of him.
Right.
Even taking out the Epstein files, he's horrible. He
Yeah.
sucks. He's the worst human being on the planet. I mean, he really is. To have this much power,
Right.
this horrible person who has no redeeming qualities. He's a greed-centered ghoul, a ghost of the Gilded Age, trying to drag us into his manias. He doesn't give a shit who he kills, who dies,
Yeah.
clearly, and a lot of these maggots believe that, oh, Trump gave up his wonderful life as a successful businessman,
Right.
and to save us from what? From decency, dignity, democracy,
Right.
humanity. I mean, like being
Well,
a decent country.
The democracy part, you might be right, because a lot of these
Yeah.
folks, they're big on the federal system. They're big on,
Yes.
and I don't know why anybody would concern themselves with, Trump's motivations when we've got a war in Iran and he's dancing backstage.
Oh, I
with-
know. It's
Hold on, wait, I gotta mute
ooh,
this.
you see,
uh,
it's
With Jake
What a-
Paul.
what a disgusting display. How disgusting, and how glib. I struggle for words sometimes to convey what I'm feeling, really, because it's makes me want to puke. Everything about him
Yeah,
makes me want to puke.
you'll also notice, by the way, that Jake Paul, because I guess of some level of media awareness, can't do the shitty Trump dance for very long because it's so bad. So he shifts
Yeah.
it into doing something else.
Yes.
Like he
Yes.
realizes like you can't do it without looking like you're mocking the dude to his face because it's
Oh
so
God.
absurd. Um,
It's so embarrassing. They were all
uh,
embarrassed. I mean,
yeah,
it's cringe. But
it's so
put it
cringe.
in context of everything. I mean, this is a guy that gave thumbs up over the graves of fallen soldiers. That in itself, I can't
Yeah,
believe that people voted for him. Who thumbs up over a grave,
right.
right?
Well,
And then the family would do it. The family did it too. They were all
with them,
like,
yeah.
thumbs up.
Right.
Like, hello,
Because because you're with the president and he says he's doing it, so it must be okay. Like,
right.
what the fuck am I
Thumbs
doing?
up.
I mean, that's
Thumbs
one of
up
those.
if you're dead.
Yeah,
Thumbs
right.
up.
Yeah, like
Fucking if
I'm.
you're dead.
Yeah, and so we've got the current set of things. Okay, so we dealt with the Epstein thing, a little bit of the Iran thing. One of the one of the things that Republicans sort of ran against mid to late Bush into Obama, where some of them actually switched over and voted for Obama, was this idea that George Bush and Dick Cheney were following the Project for a New American Century,
Yes,
and they have this plan to knock over 7 countries in the Middle East in order, 5 primary ones, but 2 more if we got time, right? And with the idea that eventually we're going to strike Iran.
Yes.
That Iran was the sequencing was 7 countries in 5 years. This was the Project for New American Century plan. We're going to knock down 7 countries in 5 years: Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. Now, interestingly enough, it deserves extra attention considering what's going on in Sudan. The sort of split between the United States stepping back and allowing Russia to knock that one down because they're just basically running off with the gold in Darfur. So the idea is that we don't care. We just don't want that center of power. In the PNAC, it wasn't that we're going to empirically take over these countries and run them. We're just going to knock off the leadership. And it's regime change at least, and resource relationships after the fact, gold, cobalt, oil, whatever, and the rest of these. But starting with Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran, you could argue that with the exception of Iraq and partly maybe Syria, because of the timing on how it went down, and then Libya, like Libya and Gaddafi, that the rest of those countries, and by the way, considering how much Trump hates Somalians and how they've driven this thing up, the destabilization that was done to Somalia during his first term led to a bunch of Somalians coming to the country. And, you could argue that's why Ilhan Omar's in office. But these 7 countries were on the list, and Iran was the crown jewel of these things. And what I've been really confronting lately is that it isn't that Trump is this extraordinary outsider and a businessman and he's different or whatever, but that he's following the exact same Republican playbook that drove George W. Bush and obviously George H.W. Bush, both in his presidency and during Reagan. And again, you could track this back to when Carter made new rules about the CIA and how they couldn't do certain covert regime change kind of stuff because of the shenanigans they'd gotten up to with the Shah and then afterwards. And he was like, somebody's got to put a pin in this. And it drove a lot of the stuff underground. And he replaced George H.W. Bush with was it Admiral Turner? And that's when the Republicans were like, okay, we're putting H.W. Bush with Reagan, and he will basically talk to the Iranians and say, hold the hostages all through the election, and we'll give you what you want over the next couple of years, if you turn them loose on our watch. Like it was, all of Trump's, like the Russia Reagan had his own Iran kind of, and they've been partners the whole time anyways. Russia and Iran were partners in a lot of things. And you could argue that there's been some sort of ideological capture of the left in this idea of like communism and socialism making its move across like Muslim socialist movements or whatever. We're kind of tying in. Well, that was initially the USSR using that as a manipulation point for ex-hippies and people in the United States and the Weather Underground and all that crowd who would do left-wing terrorism inside the United States. And they never really lost that even after 91. So this PNAC thing seems to be like, more of like the resource war versus the ideological war, where, it's not, these guys aren't fighting for the American way. They're fighting for access to oil reserves.
Yes.
And then the Russians are too. They're not fighting because communism and socialism and the people and the rights of the people and the good work of the folks of the people. They're doing it because they need access to either the routes to either keep them open or shut them down, or they need the military arms. In the case of lately with Iran and Russia, for example. But Iran is a proxy for Russia, and Hezbollah and all these other things as a proxy for Iran. It's just kind of this downhill domino that is meant to get us wound up in the Middle East. Like that PNAC took the bait, and we ended up spilling trillions of dollars in the desert for old technology and old resources. And it seems it's
just disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How that, just like everything we were saying earlier, how we're being latched to these archaic energy systems, and because a few people get very rich over it and they don't give a shit who dies. And and you're right. I didn't even think about it that way. He really is as this outlier. He was supposed to be the disruptor. He's just following the same old Republican playbook that they've been.
How is this different from George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan, in the early 80s, which, by the way, gave birth to we need a 10-year plan to unravel this stuff because we can't do it overtly. The American people aren't on board. We don't really have a bone to pick with the Iranian people the way we did with the Soviets, because you viewed sort of or even the Germans or the Japanese, that there was a monolithic aspect where, the Japanese under the emperor, the Germans under Hitler, the I guess to some degree the Tsar into the USSR, and Russia under, Lenin and Stalin specifically, that this idea that the entire populace was like, as much as we were painted as jingoistic in America, rah, 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 we voted a different president in all the time and vacillated between the parties. It was wholly different than these guys who hung on until they had cancer and they were still in office after they died 4 months later.
Right.
It isn't that Trump is this outsider that's thrown a monkey wrench into the thing. That's mostly marketing. The dude is typical. He's doing exactly what they've always done. Try to get rid of the social safety net of America because they either have an ideological or financial stake in its elimination, often both. You got insurance lobby throwing you money your way, but you also think that's communism. So you're their guy. They can't lose you on one issue; they'll get you on both. And so I just think the real pushback might be that Trump is average.
Right. Yes, and but the thing they like is that he's saying the quiet part out loud, right? They're not, that's what Hegseth's talking about. Oh, no more PC wars. We're not here to make the world safe for democracy. That's what he's talking about. We're not like the Bush and Cheney line. They're there to take the resources. They're there to take their oil. And Trump says it out loud. So
right. And you, let's see, hold on, let me open this up without making noise or whatever. Can I, I don't know if you know this, but we already had World War III, apparently. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, yeah?
Do you know that? Yeah. It already happened. And we're already on World War IV. According to this fellow, there's a man on the street happening in a mall.
Right. I was like, he's at the Staten Island Mall.
Yeah.
I guess they all look alike.
I think he's in Austin or something like that. Whatever.
The Ukraine-Russia war, the NATO-U.S. proxy war with Russia, has come to its most dangerous point at this time. Russia has succeeded in its special military operation, securing the east of Ukraine and Crimea. And now because Ukraine is not having elections and now not suing for peace, and NATO has decided to continue on, Russia is expanding and taking even more cities.
By the way, can I just point out that InfoWars' studio has just gotten far too big. I mean, there's merch, and then there's this.
These are more towns, and talking about encircling Kharkiv and Kiev, and then forcing everybody to evacuate, and then leveling the place.
Yeah. So, all right, that was World War III, and now let me show you. We're on where is it? That was his warning that we were on World War III, and then he posted. Yeah, this one last night. I mean, I don't have to play it or whatever. This is just emergency alert. Trump is launching World War IV.
Like, what's the difference, though? What does it matter?
Well, I mean, I think you want to be, you want to be first. You want to be top. You don't. You want to be. You want to be in the top three. It's the Olympics. You want to be in the top three. You don't want to be honorable mention. Yeah, that's depressing.
That's true.
Right. So, yeah, he posted that last night as like kind of a warning that we're finally there. Yeah, I'll show you the headline. There it is. Alex Jones, World War IV has begun. Oh wait, that was October 12th, 2025. Sorry, we're on World War V now. I beg your pardon.
Oh shit.
Yeah, apparently he this is like the 8th time he said hold on. Are you okay? Okay, good. My kid is playing VR, and I heard a bang. So oftentimes that means a piece of furniture has been punched. But yeah, so he's pushing this, and then I want to show you. Let's see if I
did a great conversation with Alex today.
Hold on, yeah, let's do this.
I did a great.
This is your dear friend Nick Fuentes.
Oh, jeez, Lord.
Yeah, the king of right-wing whinging right now.
Conversation with Alex today. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And
I do say
what's
so
funny?
myself.
I feel like they've awakened this sleeping giant. And Alex gets a lot of criticism. A lot of people give him crap. They say that he doesn't talk about Israel. They say that he doesn't talk about the Jews.
Yeah, it's always that.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, he just goes there. Yeah. And again, can I remind everyone, this is a young man, and most of his followers are young as well. And I got news for you, kids. They're not all male. They're not all white. That there is a huge chunk of this, one of the reasons why we didn't get Kamala last time is because this, a significant enough number of people of color have a, either a patriarchal background or believe in, a patriarchal system, especially Latinos and people who've, immigrated from South America. They come from a very Catholic background. They don't believe women should be in charge. And then you talk about this like trad wife thing, the TPUSA crowd, they're all like girls who don't want jobs. They want to be, stay-at-home moms, and they feel like, which by the way, no one is stopping you, but they have been told for years that the left is trying to force them to work or looks down on them if they decide to be a stay-at-home mom somehow, which is bizarre. Actually, I would argue that Democrats have done more to try and make like single breadwinner families, male or female, more of a thing instead of both people having to work. And if the default is seen as naturalistic or traditional, I don't care which one of you stays home. I liked Mr. Mom as well. But the point is that and when people keep telling me, we need young people, this is a large swath.
Person.
Yeah, that's a young person.
He does.
Sad.
With a Hispanic last name.
And he always has.
That's right.
And the clips are out there. I've been on his show many times over the years. Surely, if he were any form of controlled opposition, he would not be a friend of mine. Or the reverse, I suppose, would be more fitting. I would not be a friend of his.
Okay, so those of you who don't know, the big hunting party on the right now is who is controlled opposition. The Democrats are actually getting Fuentes, getting Alex Jones they're paying them or blackmailing them or something to drive people towards voting Democratic because they secretly work for Mossad or Israel or whoever, you know, that like they've got control over them. And I would go, okay, well, let's just start with that. You listen to this person all the time, and apparently this person you have been revering and listening to for a very long time has something in their background that is so goddamn bad that that someone can blackmail them into going in against everything they believe. Maybe that's not their problem. Maybe that's your problem. What say you, Tara Devlin?
Exactly. I mean, but it goes to show you that there are so many. This whole controlled opposition thing is a little bit. It's right in the Republican wheelhouse, of course, because they're just rattled with conspiracies everywhere, under every rock conspiracy, which is always baffling to me why they don't see the oldest conspiracy that is actually unfolding, which is like make the rich richer and divide and conquer, especially along racial lines, to keep people at each other's throats.
Right.
So, yeah, that's what I see, that conspiracy. But that's the oldest one we've been dealing with. And this country was supposed to be the antidote to that.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, what's the end game, though, for these people? You know what I mean? That's what I always say about, like, when they go after the what's his name, George Soros. George Soros is.
You mean Besson's old employer?
Right. But what's the end game? So George Soros gets his way. What happens? The rich are taxed at a higher rate, and we have a higher. We have living wage. What is cleaner environment?
I'll explain it to you. So in the Soros thing, the goal they believe his goal is a communist takeover of the United States and a uniformity, equity, and equality as a tamp down on humans as opposed to a lifting up of the masses.
Trans for everyone.
A mass mowing of America, where you drive everybody down to be worker bees. Everybody gets the same allotment of rule, and that's mid-century communism. That's his goal. When he hands his money out, that's not palatable to almost anybody. It certainly wasn't to the what were the former Soviets and a lot of these other satellite countries. It eventually breaks no matter what. Check out my paper on Sparksism, my economic philosophy that I posted on my Substack for more.
Wonderful.
But which is that mixed economies are natural economies, and that's where it's always going to default. Some things are too big for the individual or even a private corporation to do, and some things are too specialized for a giant corporation or a giant government to do, and you need individuals who feel motivated to create, or you won't have any of invention. Period. Because that's what's happened in China. China's you can only have the right to copy things, not innovate. And even your innovations have to be stacked on a copy. So they're not allowed to get ahead of stuff. So they just basically steal and reproduce. So all the DJI drones are built on technology they stole from us and the South Koreans, everything. But you're not allowed to build even further on that. It's one of the reasons why they kind of stall out whenever there is an innovation in the rest of the world, because it's enforced by the government. So without one of those things, you'll collapse the system. That's what happens. So you need both. We need a highway system paid for by taxes. We all agree on, and we need private people to sit there and grind on. Maybe they're thinking about cancer cures wrong. I have an idea. Let me go after this and try to build up that funding. And that idea with private people who might not be ready. The public might not be ready to buy in on it. You have to get buy-in later. And that's natural. If you try to suppress either with total laissez-faire, free market, whatever, Wild West horseshit, or and no public works, or all public works and no individuality, the system will die. So Soros, they believe Soros is trying to kill our mixed economy, which they would rather be on the laissez-faire side. But unless, of course, they have a business that does business with the government, in which case they're the biggest welfare queens in the world. See Elon Musk.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. That they think that Soros wants to do this, and it's a slippery slope. In the same way that they talk about, like, if I can't have an AR-15 with a trigger modification and a 30-round magazine or a drum magazine, what's next? I'll end up with a 2-shot pistol I can carry in in a pouch, and then I have to enter a code to get it out, and I'll get 2 shots off, and the criminals will have guns, so I will die, and they'll get my stuff and my family and myself and my whatever. So they think that slippery slope is happening.
Someone's gonna die, right? It's always such a it's like, who has the fucking time to think about all these horrors?
I would argue that there's a similar thing on our side about violence against trans people, for example. That there's been a slippery slope attitude about this as well. That even GLAAD's numbers and don't bear out. That the public is not as anti-trans as the right would have you believe, and the supporters of trans people who make money off being supporters of trans people would have you believe. To on the one hand, on the right, they want to make trans people look unpopular and hated as a group, like it's gross and it's terrible and nobody likes them and nobody wants them around. All this kind of, and then the same thing, GLAAD has the same motivation. It just comes from a different angle. And the reality is, largely in the middle. The death rate, like by violence amongst the trans community, is far lower than the general public by a massive amount. I think it's like 0.0058% of trans people die by violent means. But
there aren't many trans people. You're talking about out of the population of trans people.
Yeah, but that's a per capita number. That's a per capita number. That's a percentage, and even in a small group like that. That percentage is very, very few, and it does not mean that trans people aren't faced with violence or don't have to take extra precautions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the society has shifted from 1975, and Republicans don't like that, and they want to make it look like they're this vile infection that's coming, and make it look like the whole country secretly doesn't like it. This is a 90% issue, right? That's what Trump does. Yeah. They want to make you believe that, and on the other hand, the charities that support it make their living off of making you motivated, and that there's a reason why there's a bunch of starving dogs and cats in the ASPCA and those ads, because that's what motivates people. And without that motivation, we aren't taking steps to make sure that doesn't happen. And if that motivation starts to wane, will it go up? So that's the fear that they have. I'm not saying they're wrong for having it, but I'm just saying from a material sense, this is a thing we deal with on our side as well as theirs. Nobody is immune to the slippery slope illness. Slippery slope syndrome.
Right, but you can't deny. I mean, there's been the targeting with legislation by the Republicans.
Sure.
There over 700 bills, not passed but proposed.
Sure. But that is okay, and that gets into another conversation about whether language or bigotry or acts of legislation are the equivalents of violence, and that's that's like an online discussion that doesn't actually move the ball. I would I think with what we learned with gay marriage, for example, was that it's never going to change some people's attitude towards gay people's marriages or their right to be married or any of that stuff. Those people are going to stay bigoted as long as they're around, and society moves on without them. That is where even the younger people come up. Yep. They just kind of either blow it off or don't care or learn not to mind because none of the stuff they warned about came true. So eventually it wears out its welcome. And the point is to make sure they have rights. And so anytime they produce these bills or something, we have a responsibility to push back. And if we don't, that in a material sense, that will limit their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Whether they're treated right by their family is nothing any of us can legislate, right? No, if they're if they get in toxic relationships because of whatever, that can't be laid on the populace as a whole. We just have to make sure that rights under the Constitution apply to everyone equally. And that's got to be the democratic goal. And then what I think will happen, and I think what you probably believe will happen, is that over time the society relaxes and the fear mongering doesn't play out. And that's the hard part for Republicans. It's what's happened with electric cars. It's what's happened with solar panels and wind. Trump is still hammering this horse shit, but most people are like, no, renewables are a good way to go. Like Thomas Massey had not only reclaims water at his house, rainwater, through a system that he set up there, but he has solar panels all over the southern side of his house, like that, and that's all over Kentucky. My dad built the first 2 fully solar powered houses in the United States. Both of them are in Kentucky.
Well, there you go. Because the world keeps evolving without
Yes,
them, and
and
yeah,
and
it's
and that's what I think Trump and those guys fear. So we're at the end of the show, but I want to
yes.
and I want to thank you for coming on. I want
Thank
to
you
open up
for having me.
one other area where there's a beautiful feud going on.
Yes.
The Mark Levin, Megyn Kelly dust up. I don't know if you're familiar. But
No, I'm
okay,
not.
so Megyn Kelly's in the Tucker Carlson, the Jews are making us fight this war
Speaking
zone.
of horrible women.
Yeah, there you
Okay,
go.
right?
The future is female, right? Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Ann Coulter, and on and on and on. That's what I would always bring up to people who go like the future is female. I'm like, how about both sexes pull their weight and be good people?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we stop attributing it to genitalia. You want to talk about being anti-trans?
That's so
Nothing
true.
is more like anti-trans than denigrating the gender nonstop that they might be transitioning into,
Right. That's
or
so
from,
true.
right?
Right.
Like what are
Right.
you saying to trans men when you shit on men all the time? Is Elliot Page as much on the hook for being a white male as anybody else? And what does that say
Right.
about him as a being right now? Right? It's just
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
it's bigotry, and I won't participate in it. And I know I'm a hardliner about this, but sue me. I'll be the one person.
No,
in
I
the,
see your point. I definitely do.
I'm like the guy in
and
the.
I'm,
I'm
only
the guy in
kidding,
Life
really,
of
yeah.
Brian. I know. I'm like, but as I, as a comedian, jokes often become understood truths, right?
Yeah,
Over
yeah, no,
over
totally.
period.
A lot of people do say that, though. They do think, but anyway. But
Yeah.
what was your?
So
what were you
so
saying?
so here's my okay. So Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson are big on. Obviously, we're not talking about Jews all over there. Obviously, we're talking about Israel, but obviously, it's full of Jews, and if it wasn't full of Jews, it'd probably be better for everyone. That kind of shit.
Right.
That he and and Candace Owens and Megyn Kelly is really on this. The Hodge twins, others have been really the tip of the spear, to borrow one of Steve Bannon's phrases, of the people who are against the Iran war and are thinking this is a war for Israel and blaming Netanyahu directly, like he has a spell over Trump, or again he has blackmail materials. In which case, I would say, why are you voting for someone who can be blackmailed? Maybe might be the problem. Maybe don't vote for a child fucker next
Right.
time. So
Exactly.
But Mark Levin, Mr. Producer, the shaky one, as I call him on Sean Hannity show all the time, has been, they're under the impression that Mark Levin is the one who whispered in Trump's ear, and it wasn't Netanyahu, it wasn't MBS, it was Mark Levin who's just been, banging this drum in Trump's ear. We got to attack Iran. We've got to do it for Israel, and you got to protect Israel. Israel is our best friend, and there's been,
Oh,
you're
God.
basically the president of Israel too, Mr. President, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Megyn Kelly called him, like they got in this dust up, like he's gone after Megyn Kelly because, he sees her as anti-Semitic or buying into Tucker's anti-Semitism, whatever. And she called him, she said he had a micro penis, and then online. And they went
It goes
back
so
and
personal, right? Like,
It's,
can't you just stick to the policies?
yes. So let me see if I can find that penis Levin Kelly. So yeah, so she said he has a micro penis, and I guess they used to work there, at Fox together.
How does
so
she know,
Who
though?
can say? I don't know. Let's see. Oops, sorry, I'm feeding back a little bit, but that's okay. If you look at, here you go. There was this back and forth where here it is. Megyn Kelly, Mark Levin wrote, "Poor Megyn Kelly, an emotionally unhinged, lewd, and petulant wreck. She's completely revealed and destroyed herself. She's everything people said she is, much worse. Never an intelligent, thoughtful, or substantive comment. Utterly toxic." And she responds, "Micro penis Mark Levin thinks he's the most. He has the monopoly on lewd. He tweets about me obsessively in the crudest, nastiest terms possible, literally more than some stalkers I've had arrested. So, he doesn't like it when women like me fight back because of his micro penis." And she drops the micro penis. Like twice.
How does he know that? I mean, why would you do that? It really diminishes your argument.
I don't know that she knows. I think she's just,
Right.
like big truck, small dick, kind of, that's where she's going,
Yeah,
maybe.
she's just
Or a loud
making
mouth. the loudest geysers apparently, which is clearly not true. And so she calls him a microphone, and they go back and forth, and this turned into a thing. So he got like everybody was coming to his defense and stuff, and then Trump does like one of his biggest truth sinkholes ever. One of his longest posts, talking about Mark Levin, a truly great American patriot, is somewhat under siege, whatever, by other people with far less intellect, capability, and love for our country. Mark is tough, strong, and brilliant, hence the nickname The Great One, conceived by our MAGA friend, the wonderful Sean Hannity. After years of dealing with Mark in legal media and other capacities, Mark would often do Sean's show, speaking as a lawyer, and Sean realized then, as did others, that he was special. Mark Levin was not looking to do television, radio, or anything else, but he was drafted by very smart people who understood that there were few like him. He's a true conservative intellect, far smarter than those who criticize him. So he did this dump on Megyn Kelly's head.
Wow.
Right. About this thing. So I gotta say
he had like 8 wars to solve. I don't understand. Why is he getting involved with this shit?
Well, that's the thing. He kind of is, I guess. But the fascinating part is that who Trump came, to the defense of, and how ferociously. Somebody was saying earlier, like Trump, like you can tell Trump's brain is fading because of the length of his posts. Like this is one of the other ones. Like he is just releasing like chapters of a book.
Incredible.
This is about tariffs. Like he's just blathering about, his
tariff
post.
Your attention
to this matter. Right. But but the fact that he came to the defense of Mark Levin so vehemently is causing Alex Jones to flip out, and poor little bend over Johnson doesn't know what he's supposed to do about this, and this is a maggot war. This is a real one. This is the only person who benefits from it, I think, is Steve Bannon, who's like glad they're not talking about me right now. Because of Guo and Guai and his Chinese fake dissident money, because it was actually CCP money, and his 18 hours or 15 hours that he has of Jeffrey Epstein footage that he's released an hour and a half of, or 2 hours of, which clearly is like super edited. The guy changes shirts multiple times. Like they're just trying desperately to not do anything, like to draw attention, I guess.
Incredible. Well, it sounds like they're all feuding. The whole maggot sphere, or they don't know what to do with themselves because no new wars, and President of Peace is betraying them. Or so they say, even though I don't understand how you can be betrayed by a con man. So I mean, the con man's going to con man's going to lie. So if you're betrayed by that, shame on you, really, right? That's what I think.
Fool me once, you can't get fooled again. It's a this is a this is a clear shift that I don't see how you stitch it back together. I think they can under desperate emergencies. I think that's what he's hoping the Iran war is ultimately, that he's got a contradictory goal here. One is we want to win this decisively and quickly and get the fuck out. We don't want a forever war. We got to end this and be seen as macho and cool and killer and warfighter and ethos and yada yada. And at the same time, if it's over that quickly, everybody's just waiting for blowback. Everybody's just wondering when the next when the 9/11 it triggered happens for the next 2 decades, and that's on Trump. But better that than staying there. But then on the other hand, the longer he stays there, the more we're at a real war. And if maggots don't get in line, they're helping the enemy. We're back to if you don't like this, the terrorists win, right? So
that's right. Yep.
And again, these are conflicting goals. And Tara Devlin, do you see a way out of it for the Trump administration other than the standard like?
Well, I think what people are saying, he could declare victory and go home, but he's already hit the hornet's nest, and the enemy gets a say too, as they say. he's just opened up Pandora's box. That's why he's begging our allies, who he constantly denigrates, to come in and to help him and save him. He wants he wants World War. You want to talk about, he wants World War 3 or 4 or whatever number.
Right.
So he'd be happy with that. That's for sure, because they would bail him out. He would be
You're in the this actually benefits him as a long war more than a short exchange.
Well, I don't know. I just think that there's no easy way out of this. And
well, there definitely isn't.
Because of what we've been talking about, that the Iranians, he just created more extremists, more terrorists, more people who hate us. As he's done, he's created more people who hate us all over the world. The freaking Canadians hate us. So, I mean, how do you do that? That's you got to really try hard to make the Canadians turn against us, and they are. They are. So, because how can you not? He's just a horrible person, and he wanted to pull out of NATO. The only person who benefits here is Russia and Putin, of course. Putin is always, coming out. They smelling like a rose with this with Trump. He making more money. They undid the sanctions on Iran, because of
Russia. But
I mean, yes, that's what I meant.
Sure, those are ships stuck at sea, like I said, and it's still like it will allow them to refill those ships with other stuff to keep them floating and sell the stuff that's at sea that they were already selling on the down low. And anyways, but at a much higher price. I mean, I don't know that he's removed the ability for the sanctions. This is the questionable part of it, is that they can sell it, but do they have to still sell it at the $60 rate that while everybody else is selling at 103? Right, nobody is, and also, are they allowing them to backdoor sell it for 80 or whatever, that, which is entirely possible.
Right. Even though, even though Russia is working with Iran to give intel, they were saying that the targeting of our troops it's so precise. There's no doubt that they're
Russia's
getting inside
helping.
information.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's also,
he's got spies all over the place too, because they stopped all of the mechanisms to root these spies out. That's the other thing. They ended, all the agents in the FBI that were doing counter. I mean, who's that? There's like a 22-year-old asshole in charge of counterterrorism now in the FBI. The guy with the eyebrow, whose earlier job was being a landscaper.
The kid who's protecting us, protecting the homeland right now. Right.
Yes.
I mean, look, most of the people that they're putting in place are either operatives of Elon Musk's and Trump's too stupid to notice. And so he's surrounded on all sides by these guys who basically have access to everything. Or they are incompetent friends of Donald Trump's who he thinks they're getting this no-show job that's mostly prestige, money, and future business connections. But on one end, I think they're hoping that during the DHS funding lapse, even though money is still flowing and people are still getting paid, and in some areas, like, it's only the extra people that they bring on for like holiday stuff, which there aren't any other than spring break, which is not a holiday. It'll be answered by probably April, by Easter. That they're kind of hoping something happens during that time so they can blame Democrats for lowering our guard, so they can use it. And I think Democrats are reasonably afraid, because they actually give a shit about the people who would be harmed in a circumstance like that's a real issue, especially because he just started a war. And you could argue that part of the timing on this war was about DHS funding as well, that there were several things that triggered fuck it, let's just do it. And the fact that we were, the Democrats are withholding DHS funding and helping, pushing for, stricter laws on immigration or whatever, if we get a blowback attack, they can blame it, they can lay it right at the feet of the Democrats, and that'll help them in the midterms. If they, what better distraction from the Epstein files could they possibly come up with?
That's right. And he could also declare or try to declare some kind of emergency to mess with the elections even further.
Yeah, I honestly don't see that happening. And I think the biggest reason is that their margin of victory, even though it's going to go away during the election, I truly believe, it's so narrow, and there are so many maggots in office that are turning on him that those people would start voting, doing discharge petitions and all kinds of shit about that,
Right.
because
Right.
they think they'll be reelected, and B, they're going to stay in place. He's been trying to get rid of Massey. Massey wouldn't even have to deal with an
That's
election
true.
either, right? And then what happens? That just makes him
Right.
louder and extends his seat in theory till January, when they have to do some sort of emergency reappointment of all the people that,
Right.
and what's that based on? It's just stupid. Like, I honestly don't see that because of the people around him, because Trump thinks he's going to get a bunch of new maggots in to take over Massey's seat, for example, which he isn't, but he believes that through, by hook or by crook, largely by crook, they will be able to shift this. So anyways, thank you for coming on and staying over. I know I snagged you in this a little bit, but this is going to be something that we're going to watch out for. And when I come on your show, I would love to talk about the sort of like,
let's do it.
The, sort of the media bait system of, these days where they try to get you to, emotionally grab you, which even if it's for a good reason, can sometimes undermine your ability to push back, because people get like burned out. If the
That's right.
You know what I mean? It's like people who turn the channel on the ASPCA or the
I know they can't handle it.
Yeah, or St. Jude's. It doesn't mean you don't care. It's just like it's so heavy, and there's so much heavy around. And so
it
you
never
gotta
stops. Yeah.
No. So, anyways, I appreciate you so much. Have great shows Tuesday, Thursday,
you.
and Friday. Terror Busters. Check it out.
Tomorrow.
And your Substack as well is Terror Devlin
Terror,
at Substack.
Yes, it's Terror Devlin at Substack.com. Oh wait, what is it? How did I do that?
Or is it Terror Busters?
No, it's Terror Buster.
Okay.
Terror Buster. I'll put that in the chat actually at Substack. See, I should know that off the.
Yeah, there you go. I'm glad we worked it out. Yeah. And people should check out, subscribe to both our Substacks. I have I broke down my economic theory into a series of explanatory blogs, kind of, and then I created an academic paper. It is one of the areas where I used AI for good, in that I framed my idea and basically debated with economists, like having the AI play the part of economists, and all these things, debated my system until I narrowed it down to what I actually think is a functional argument, and then shaped it, paragraph by paragraph into an academic paper, which is, I mean, I should get an honorary doctorate for this thing. If Trump's going to get one,
that's amazing.
If Cosby got honorary doctorates and they're taking them back, can I have them instead? But yeah, so it's on there. So
all right.
You're wonderful. Thank you so much. And I will see you very, very soon on your show, I would hope.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
I'll
Cheers.
see you soon. Bye, guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Terror Devlin. And thank you guys for hanging in there today. Sorry I started a little bit late. We went over a little bit, kind of evened it out. Ended up being about the same length of show. It's all right. I'm getting your lack of money's worth. Don't worry. Just ask FIFA. That's a good idea. I should get a FIFA award. Dr. Hal. It sounds pretty good, actually. Dr. Sparks. My grandfather was a doctor of education. He was a Dr. Sparks. So I wouldn't rule that out at some point. I mean, I do intend to live to be at least 300. So, yeah. But if you guys haven't checked that out, please check out my Substack. It's halsparks.substack.com. And it's the Hal Sparks Substack Megaworldwide. And also I posted on my site, I updated recently the Iran tracker. I'm going to make more changes to it today, but I'm also going to put up a Ukraine tracker as well on my site, so that you can see what's been going on and we can reference it when Phil comes on and those kind of things, because I'm working for you guys. I'm doing it. So yeah, like the stream, share the show. Venmo, if you feel like the work I've done so far is worth a cup of coffee, throw it my way. It's not hard. Take a picture of that with your phone, and then you can use Venmo to send me $5 or $10 or something. Summer's doing well, thank you. She's we're gonna have to we won't have a morning show on Wednesday because she has a doctor's appointment. I'm going with her. So just news on that. We might bump it to Thursday, but we'll see. And but thank you guys for caring, and I appreciate it. And like I said, if if the schedule bumps around, just cut me some slack if you would during that time. So I love you guys and thank you for that. And I will see you guys later this afternoon for the regular show, which we will have far too many clips because the world is mad and insane and what the hell. And I feel like it's getting almost to the point where we're back to it being, instead of violently absurd, back to cartoonishly silly. And I operate much better in that window. Just saying. So much love, and I will talk to you guys later this afternoon. What do we go out on this week? I think, let's see. I think, where was this? Yeah, I will go with this because I like this hippie, the end of the world, in honor of World War 4.2 beta, I guess. Yeah? You guys are awesome. Hit the like, share the show, and, subscribe, would you?
Sunset sky, same red ash in my coffee cup. Radio man says this is goodbye, then the needle jumps, the volume cuts. I've seen this reel burn through before. Same slow motion closing door. It's the never-ending ending. Roll the credits, start again. Every goodbye just keeps bending back around the sun, my friend. If the world keeps on pretending, I'll just light one more and sing to the never-ending sirens in a southern dream. Kids still jogging